So I want to get to just a summary of why education policy fails. They don't identify the wrong problem. The wrong problem was not that we had a nation that wasn't keeping up with international bubble colors. That wasn't our problem. The second thing is that bad solutions. You know, more standards, a new version of the standards is a waste of time. It is a waste of time. It is a waste of resources. It has nothing tangible for those children. We've been working on that for 100 years now, and we're basically teaching the same thing we were 100 years ago. Young Zhao is the author of the book Catching Up or Leading the Way. And he talks about how at a time when China is trying to model their education system after America, because they don't want just factory workers. They want inventors. They want problem solvers. They want the creators. They don't want to get in on the manufacturing end. They want to get in on the development end. So at a time when China is trying to model their system after America, education is killing theirs with standards and high-stakes testing. The other thing is that we're misdirecting our limited amount of dollars. And, you know, there are a lot of people that show up as reformers. And the easy way to tell whether someone is an educator or a salesperson is what they're peddling. And if they're marketing a product as a solution to fix education, that's a salesperson. Or if they're like the organization Stand for Children, they're marketing performance pay as the solution. Do you know what performance pay is marketing? Standardized tests. So track it. There are people like Michelle Rhee. She's marketing herself. So take a look at what it is that they're promoting as the solution. If the solution is anything other than educators and parents working together with communities, you know they're salespeople. The last thing is we have to quit repeating the same mistakes and perpetuating the failed outcomes. I tell my students, listen, part of being a human being is making mistakes. It's okay that our government made mistakes. That happens. That's what happens when you're trying to manage, you know, growing populations and limited resources. We don't get it right all the time. But what I say to my students is, but be a fast learner. You know, we're going to make mistakes. That's okay. But you can either be a fast learner or slow learner. And you're going to be the fast learners. So we've got to be that in terms of education policy. And we have examples of education policy that have worked. 1965 was the first Elementary Secondary Education Act. Lyndon B. Johnson is the only president that was an educator. And he understood the importance of education. He understood the importance of education in terms of our economy, and he understood education in terms of the importance of our democracy. And what Lyndon B. Johnson did was he targeted federal resources at the kids who needed them most. He was the champion of at-risk children. And what he did in the Elementary Secondary Education Act was to direct dollars to children with special needs, to children of low income, and children that were English second language learners. And what that translated to were real tangible services and resources. So for some schools, that meant professional development. Only it wasn't Congress that were telling the teachers in the schools how to improve. It was administrators and school accountability teams that were looking at what are the strengths and needs of our particular community, our unique community, and developing professional development around that. In some cases, because of the Elementary Secondary Education Act, some schools got their first libraries and librarians. Now, part of the No Child Left Behind has resulted in librarians' hours being cut or eliminated and libraries being shut down. So that's the difference between the original Elementary Secondary Education Act and what we got with No Child Left Behind. What we got here was support and services for children. As a result of the original Elementary Secondary Education Act, after a decade of the war on poverty, we saw poverty in the United States drop 6%. Since No Child Left Behind, in the decade of No Child Left Behind, poverty for children has risen 9%. So I want to share a personal story. This is about why I wrote the book, Seeds of Tomorrow, and really why I'm here with you at the Summer Dial Institute talking about at-risk children, who are my very favorite children of all. And it begins with the story about my mother, who was a paraplegic. And she broke her back in a toboggan accident. With some family members, they were, sledding down the hill and hit a log underneath the snow, and everybody popped up. And when she came back down, she broke her back. And the doctor said, "You're never going to be able to walk again, and you're never going to be able to drive, and you're never going to be able to have children." And, my mom is not the kind of person that allows other people to set the circumstances for her, so she learned how to drive. In fact, her first car was a VW with a manual stick shift. And she also learned how to walk. She learned how to walk with braces and crutches. And eventually I was born. And it was difficult because in order for her to carry me around, she couldn't use her arms because she had to use her crutches to walk. So she devised this wonderful system where she would dress me in overalls. And when it was time for us to get from one place to the next, she would reach down and she would pick me up by the back of those overalls, and she would put me on the end of her crutches, and off we would go. And I learned 3 things at the end of my mother's crutches. I learned that people matter. So when we're talking about policy, what matters is the people. Anybody who says tests and standards and a new system and a new model or a private company is going to solve the problem misses the point. We are who matters. The second thing I learned is that we need each other. And this is a mess. This is a mess. And our children are in crisis. And our schools are in danger. And the job to fix it is huge, huge. And yet, this country has been in difficult spots before, and we've been able to figure it out. We've had problem solvers, and we've had critical thinkers, and we've figured it out, and we have lots of examples of that. But the key is that we need each other. We need parents, we need students, we need business leaders, we need government leaders. We all need to come together on behalf of our children. The third thing that I learned at the end of my mother's crutches, I think I have little slides for this, is that you have to fight for the important things. And that's why it's so important that teachers engage in this. Because it's not just enough for us to teach children, we have to champion them. We have to champion them in the dark places where they're not honored, where they're not even talked about. That's where we have